Your nervous system is not a communication network. It is a two-layered control architecture, and only one of those layers was ever taught to you. Right now, you're probably feeling it. That low-grade scatter. That sense of reaching for something just outside your grasp. A feeling that the version of yourself you know is only half the story. You were not wrong about that feeling. There is a second system running beneath everything you've been told about your own biology, and it has been shaping your reality since before you drew your first breath. There is a pattern running underneath civilization. It moves through ancient healing traditions, through suppressed science, through the architecture of every mystery school that ever existed. Once you see it, you genuinely cannot unsee it. And it points to one conclusion that institutions have spent decades working very hard to make sure you never arrived at on your own. Here is what that pattern looks like. Every culture that developed a sophisticated healing tradition described something beyond the physical body, something that organized it, something that preceded it. The Egyptians mapped it. The Chinese systematized it into meridian theory thousands of years before the first Western medical school opened its doors. The Vedic tradition called it prana. The Greeks called it pneuma. These were not metaphors. These were functional maps of a bioelectric field that modern science is only now beginning to measure with instruments precise enough to detect it. And then, Robert Becker came along and proved it. Not theorized it, proved it. With electrodes and salamanders, and decades of rigorous, documented, peer-reviewed research, and the medical establishment defunded him. Twice. That is the pattern. Not an accident, not a funding shortfall. A pattern of erasure that repeats every time someone gets close enough to demonstrate that the body is not a machine running on chemistry. It is a field, a programmable, tunable, responsive field, and you are not a passenger inside it. You are the one doing the programming, whether you know it or not. Stay with me through this entire section, because there is a document we are going to reach later in this video, a declassified document. And when you read what it actually says about the human biofield and consciousness, it is going to reframe every piece of information that comes before it. This is not a metaphor. This is not a spiritual consolation. This is documented, measurable, reproducible science that simply does not get taught. And you are about to understand exactly why. The layer most people never find is called the perinural system. Not the central nervous system, not the autonomic nervous system, something older. Something that wraps the entire nervous system like a sheath, running along every nerve fiber in your body, from the outermost branches of your peripheral system, all the way to the deepest structures of your brain. Robert O. Becker, orthopedic surgeon and pioneering bioelectromagnetics researcher, spent the better part of 4 decades studying exactly what this system does. And what he found did not fit the model. It never fit the model, that was the point. Becker discovered that the perinural cells, the glial and Schwann cells, wrapped around every nerve in your body, are not passive insulation. They are semiconductors. They carry a direct current, a DC bioelectric signal, that runs continuously through your entire body independent of the electrochemical impulses your neurons fire when you think or move or feel. This is a separate electrical system, a control layer, and it operates below the threshold of conscious awareness. Now here is the question that changes everything. If this system is always running, always carrying current, always shaping the electrical environment of every cell in your body, then what is it actually doing? Becker answered that question with salamanders. Salamanders can regenerate lost limbs. You probably knew that. What you probably did not know is that Becker mapped the precise bioelectric blueprint that makes it possible. He measured the DC field across the site of a salamander's amputated limb and found something extraordinary. The field did not just react to the wound. It organized the repair. It carried the template. The anatomy did not regenerate by accident or by some vague biological imperative. It regenerated because the bioelectric field encoded the instruction set and the cells followed it. He then asked the obvious next question. Could you artificially restore that field in a species that had lost the ability to regenerate? He tried it on frogs, which unlike salamanders cannot regenerate limbs. He applied a small external DC current at the amputation site, mimicking the field signature he had mapped in the salamander. The frog began to regenerate, not completely, but measurably. Structurally, the cells responded to the field as though they had remembered something they were never supposed to forget. This research was published, it was peer-reviewed, it was replicated, and then the funding was pulled. Not once, twice. The first time, Becker was defunded by the Veterans Administration after he began publishing research on the biological effects of electromagnetic fields, research that had uncomfortable implications for the military's expanding use of radar and radio frequency technology. The second time, he was effectively forced out of his own laboratory after he testified before Congress about the health risks of powerline electromagnetic fields. His work, documented in his own books, The Bioelectric and Cross Currents, describes this pattern with the precision of a man who watched it happen to him in real time and understood exactly what it meant. The decode here is not subtle. Healing is not a biochemical event that the body performs on itself like a machine replacing a broken part. Healing is bioelectric field reprogramming of anatomical structure. The field carries the template, the cells execute it. This means that when ancient traditions described a life force that could be cultivated, directed, and used to restore health, they were not speaking poetically. They were describing, in the language available to them, the same system Becker spent his career measuring. The Chinese meridian system, which maps pathways of energetic flow through the body that do not correspond to any anatomical structure visible to the naked eye, maps with striking precision onto the pathways of lowest electrical resistance in the body's DC current network. That is not a coincidence. That is a cartography, a map drawn by people who had found the system through a different instrument, through attention, through practice, through direct interior investigation, and had been accurate enough in their mapping that it held up for 4,000 years until Western bioelectromagnetics finally built the tools to verify it. The perinural system is the wiring. Becker proved the wiring exists. He proved it carries current. He proved it organizes biological structure in ways that transcend chemistry. He proved the system could be interfaced from outside, that an external field could speak to the body's own field, and the body would respond. But here is what Becker himself acknowledged, and what the research that followed his work makes increasingly impossible to ignore. The wiring does not generate the signal. Something else does. The DC current that runs through the perinural system is a carrier wave. And if it is a carrier wave, then the question is not how does the body repair itself. The question is, what is broadcasting the signal that tells it how? That source is not in the nervous system. It is not in the brain. And what it actually is, and where it actually. There is a layer beneath the nervous system, a web of connective tissue that wraps every organ, every muscle, every cell in your body in a continuous sheath of living crystal. It is called fascia, and for most of modern medicine's history, it was treated as packing material, biological bubble wrap, something you cut through to get to the real stuff underneath. That assumption was one of the most expensive mistakes in the history of science, because fascia is not passive. Fascia is piezoelectric. When mechanical pressure moves through it, when you breathe, when you walk, when you place a needle at a precise point on the skin, it generates an electrical charge, not slowly, the way a nerve impulse travels, instantly, faster than nerve conduction by orders of magnitude. The signal doesn't travel through the fascial web. It propagates through it, the way a wave moves through water. Now here's the question that should be keeping researchers up at night. If fascia conducts bioelectric signals faster than nerves, then what was the nervous system actually doing? And the answer, when you sit with it long enough, is this. The nervous system processes. The fascial web transmits. Two different functions, two different architectures, one body running on both simultaneously. James Oschman spent decades building the scientific case for exactly this. His work on the living matrix describes fascia as a whole-body sensing and signaling system, a continuous tensegrity structure that responds to fields, to pressure, to intention. Oschman was not writing science fiction. He was pulling together peer-reviewed biophysics, crystallography, and materials science into a framework that mainstream medicine simply refused to integrate. Not because the data was wrong, because the implications were too disruptive. And here is where something ancient suddenly looks very different in the light of modern measurement. Traditional Chinese medicine mapped the meridian system over 4,000 years ago. 12 primary channels running through the body. Specific points along those channels that, when stimulated, produced measurable effects in organs and systems far removed from the site of stimulation. For centuries, Western science dismissed this as folklore, as superstition dressed up in poetic language. There was no anatomical structure that corresponded to the meridians. No vessel, no nerve, no duct. So the conclusion was that they simply did not exist. Then researchers started mapping the electrical conductivity of the body's surface in detail. And what they found was extraordinary. The points that traditional Chinese medicine had identified as acupuncture points showed significantly lower electrical resistance than surrounding tissue, meaning they were high conductivity nodes in a low conductivity field. And when you trace the lines connecting those nodes, the paths of highest conductivity through the body, you get the meridian map. Exactly the meridian map. Not approximately, not suggestively, exactly. The meridians are not mystical pathways. They are the high conductivity planes of the fascial network. They are the lines of least resistance in a living piezoelectric crystal. The ancient physicians of China were not imagining an energy body. They were empirically mapping a bioelectric architecture that Western science would not have the tools to measure for 4 millennia. Acupuncture isn't mysticism, it's field engineering. When a practitioner places a needle at a specific point, they are introducing a piezoelectric signal at a node of high conductivity in a body-wide transmission network. The effect propagates through the fascial web faster than the nervous system can register it. The body's bioelectric field is being tuned, deliberately, with precision, and the fact that we spent a century mocking this practice because we couldn't see the mechanism is not an indictment of Chinese medicine. It is an indictment of our instruments. Think about what that actually means for civilization. The oldest continuous medical tradition on Earth was practicing bioelectric field engineering, while Europe was still debating whether disease came from bad air. Generations of practitioners refined a map of the body's electrical architecture through careful observation, through feedback, through clinical result. They did not need an oscilloscope. They needed attention, and they paid it. Now here is the decode move, and I need you to hold this clearly. The fascial web is not separate from you. It is not a system running inside you the way plumbing runs inside a wall. It is continuous. From the crown of your skull to the soles of your feet, it is one unbroken structure. Every point in it is in communication with every other point. Tension at your jaw registers in your hips. Compression in your sternum affects the field around your heart. The web does not have isolated problems. It has global patterns. And those patterns are not just physical. They are bioelectric. They are informational. They are the medium through which the body's second nervous system broadcasts its instructions. But what they never taught you, what doesn't appear in the textbooks even now, is that this web has a master node. A place where the field is strongest, where the signal is loudest, where the architecture of the whole living crystal converges. And once you understand what that node is and how it works, the entire picture of what you actually are changes completely. The master node is not in your brain. Let that land for a moment. Everything you have been taught about cognition, about consciousness, about the seat of your experience points upward, toward the skull, toward the cortex, toward the 100 billion neurons firing in patterns we are only beginning to decode. And the brain is extraordinary. But it is not the loudest signal in the body. Not by a factor of 10. Not by a factor of 100. Not even close. The heart generates an electromagnetic field that is 5,000 times stronger than the field produced by the brain. 5,000 times. That is not a rounding difference. That is a different order of magnitude entirely. And that field does not stay inside the chest. It radiates outward from the body in a torus, a donut-shaped field that extends several feet in every direction. You are sitting inside it right now. Everyone in your immediate environment is inside it. And it is not static. It pulses with information. It changes with your emotional state. It responds to your internal coherence. It broadcasts. So what is it broadcasting to? The HeartMath Institute has spent 30 years building the measurement science around cardiac coherence, the state in which the heart's electromagnetic output becomes rhythmically ordered rather than chaotic. Their data shows that when a person enters coherence, the field they emit changes character. It becomes more organized, more resonant, and measurably, it begins to affect the nervous systems of people nearby. Not metaphorically. Measurably. The entrainment is physiological. Now, here is where the picture expands into territory that most researchers will not touch in public. In 1983, the CIA commissioned a classified study on human consciousness and its relationship to what the document calls the universal hologram. That study, known as the Gateway Process Report, was declassified in 2003, and buried inside its technical analysis is a framework that reads like the most grounded description of mystical experience ever written by a government contractor. The report describes the human biofield as an interface, a tunable resonant structure that, under specific conditions of coherence, can interact directly with the holographic information field that underlies physical reality. The language is careful, the framework is rigorous, and the conclusion is staggering. Your field doesn't just radiate, it interfaces. Michael Levin's work at Tufts University adds another dimension to this. Levin studies bioelectric patterns in living systems, the way voltage gradients across cell membranes encode information that guides the growth and repair of the organism. His research demonstrates that bioelectric patterns carry what he calls morphological memory. The body does not just repair damage by following a genetic blueprint. It references an electrical template, a field-encoded map of what the organism is supposed to look like. The information for form exists in the field before it exists in the tissue, which means the body is not building itself from the inside out. It is growing toward a pattern that is already there, already held, already broadcast. 19.1. Here is the decode move. You have been taught that you observe reality, that you are a receiver, a biological instrument that takes in data from the external world and constructs a model of it inside the brain. That framing makes you passive. It makes you a camera pointed at a world that exists independently of your looking. But the evidence points somewhere entirely different. You don't observe reality. You project it. Your biofield, coherent, electromagnetic, 5,000 times louder than your brain, is continuously broadcasting a signal into the holographic substrate of physical experience. And that substrate responds. Not eventually, not symbolically, structurally. The ancient traditions knew this in their own language. The Vedic concept of Maya is not illusion in the sense of falsehood. It is projection. The world as experienced is a rendering, and the instrument doing the rendering is you. The Hermetic axiom, as within, so without, is not poetry. It is a description of field mechanics. The internal state of the projector shapes the quality of the projection. Once you tune the field, the projection shifts. That is not a motivational metaphor. That is the operational implication of 30 years of cardiac coherence research, of classified government consciousness studies, of bioelectric morphology science. The field is the lever. And you have been walking around this entire time not knowing you were holding it. What you haven't been told yet is what it actually means that you can choose to tune it, deliberately, consistently. And what happens to the architecture of your life when you do. So here is where everything lands. You are not a receiver waiting for the world to send you a signal. You are a transmitter. The web is yours. The field is yours. The broadcast is yours to shape. When you work with your breath, when you cultivate coherence, when you bring genuine intention into your body's electrical architecture, you are not doing wellness. You are doing field engineering. You stop being a passenger in circumstances. You become the origin point of them. The practices that do this, breathwork, coherence training, intentional presence, are not supplementary. They are the primary technology, and they have always been. Now, I want to hear from you. What did this open for you? What did you already know that this confirmed? Drop it in the comments. Your experience adds to the living map. Seriously, your contributions in the comments often add layers that I bring back into the work itself. If this transmission is landing, there is more coming. Sacred geometry, the neurochemistry of mystical states, the architecture of the initiated mind. That is the next layer of the curriculum. Stay with it. The signal was always you. Comment with what shifted in you. Your insight extends the map for everyone still finding their way. Subscribe to continue. The next layer goes deeper. The field is already active. You are already transmitting.